Multiple parents, guardians, and ex-employees are letting their voices be heard when it comes to a daycare in Skiatook called Lakeview Early Learning Academy.
FOX23 reporters Paris Rain and Devyn Lyon have both been following the claims and investigate the daycare. They join us tonight with team coverage of what they've learned. We start first with FOX23's Paris Rain, who spoke with concerned moms.
After hundreds of Facebook comments, pictures, videos, and interviews, it was difficult to hear the allegations against this daycare.
Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
It's a horrible experience.
Those are the feelings that some of the moms shared with me after dealing with the daycare at the Lakeview Early Learning Academy. Alicia Pamaticki was one of the first moms to have her child attend the daycare. She says her son started in the fall of 2019.
This place was amazing. We got to go in, we got to tour it, and the way Stephanie talked about it, Stephanie was a NICU nurse, and so she could handle all the kids, you know, health-wise, and that was one of my biggest concerns. They're outside of Skiatook, away from an ambulance, so it made me feel better that there was a nurse there.
Then Alicia says that changed after learning that her child was one of many allegedly abused at the daycare.
It's not right. You know, I left him in there way too long than I should have.
She says it never crossed her mind that they would be like that toward children.
But they absolutely are, and they allowed it to go on. And if it wasn't for other employees, really, you know, ex-employees reaching out to me and saying, get your kid out now, get your kid out now, you know, I would have eventually pulled him, but they're the ones that really got me to pull him out of there, and I'm so grateful for them.
As a parent, she says you shouldn't have to worry about things like this at a daycare, and she doesn't want this to happen to any other child.
And they don't ever need to be around children again, ever. They're disgusting.
One mom told me things were so bad at the daycare that she is now a stay-at-home mom and no longer trusts anyone to watch her kids.
The staff there, I would never trust with my kids, especially Stephanie and Rick. My oldest, she is 4. They supposed to have safe sleep, but I don't see that because my daughter ended up having a black eye when I picked her up, and she said that the shelf poked it. Okay, well, you wouldn't leave a black eye.
This is the picture she says was sent to her after her daughter was seen with the black eye. Months later, she says there was another incident. The one she says was the final straw.
Me and my husband, as usual, around 5 o'clock, she got slapped in the face. So I called Stephanie as soon as that happened, and she said she would go there and take the report.
Natalie says it happened all because of her daughter stepped on a toy.
And so I was very anxious, and my husband looked at me very mad. So we went and got my other kids. And I asked myself, like, why would you have toys on the ground if you didn't want them to step on them?
She says as far as she knows, there wasn't a consequence for the worker who was back at work the next day.
I don't understand why somebody would ever hurt something so precious like that. If you really look at them, I mean, my twins are only 1. Babies, they don't know anything, you know. It's over a toy.
Natalie told her sister, Caitlin Wycole, about her daughter being slapped. Concerned Caitlin went to social media to see if any other moms had concerns about their kids attending Lakeview Daycare. She posted this message on Facebook, curious to see if anyone had issues with this daycare. The responses back were overwhelming.
I had so many people private message me about issues they've had with the daycare, with the owners, and they've sent all the proof. People had over 300 comments, multiple shares. I mean, so many people are not wanting to do this and reach out because they're scared.
Caitlin shared with me this 3-page document of 53 complaints of things that happened at the daycare, from mistreatment to parent testimonies, all from a previous employee that wanted to remain anonymous. According to the report, at one point, Rick wrapped a 2-year-old in a blanket and roughly placed him into the crib and helped him down on his stomach and kept yelling at him to stop moving. The kid was screaming, crying, and sweating. It says Rick didn't stop until Stephanie told him to. Caitlin says she knows both Stephanie and Rick from her childhood and says she never had any issues with them.
It's really upsetting because I know that they weren't like this back when I knew them. And hanging out with her older daughter, she's nothing like them, so I just never had any idea at all. They totally went downhill, it seemed like.
She says as a mother, she was devastated to hear that so many kids had been hurt at the daycare.
I would hope that this place gets shut down. I mean, that this place, that they can never be around kids again, not have a daycare license.
Neither of the daycare owners or workers have been charged with any crimes related to the complaints. The moms I spoke to all stand by what they say occurred inside the daycare. Fox 23's Devyn Lyon has more on the investigation and what they have done legally to try and get this daycare shut down.
That's right, parents. It is important to say the owners of this daycare have not been charged or convicted of any crime related to the claims coming against them. I have reached out to the owners via phone call and email. I made sure they were aware of the claims and our coverage. This is what they sent me, quote, "The owner and director are aware of the malicious stories circulating regarding the quality of care that their children have allegedly received. We would like to assure the public that all our staff are held to the highest standards and accountability. Any staff member that fails to consistently meet our expectations will be terminated." They continue, "We only ever want to provide and maintain an environment that allows all children to thrive and succeed. All claims made to the contrary are investigated by DHS, and we are always working with this agency to ensure that we meet their expectations as well. The current staff, director, and owners are not interested in any communicating any further on this issue." So we also sat down with one of the former employees of this daycare who had her children there as well. Here's part of our interview with Jessica Kimsey.
I had 2 children there that were 4 and 1 at the time, and I worked in the infant class. They would constantly tell us to turn infants under a year over on their stomach because it would make them sleep longer, or to cover infants and children's faces with blankets because it would help them sleep longer, or to go against parents' needs and wishes regarding medications if they wanted them to have Tylenol or ibuprofen, if they wanted them to be on real food or just a bottle, if the parents wanted a pacifier or a sippy cup. They thought that they were like God. Looking back now and thinking about both of my kids and what they experienced, like, it's super upsetting. Sorry. And then what I experienced with another teacher there was absolutely like traumatizing. And I think about it a lot because DHS really put the fear of God into me and my other co-teacher, that we weren't allowed to talk about it until it was done being investigated, and we never got an ending. So we just didn't say anything to any of the parents. And I feel really bad for them now and wish that we could have reached out.
Now, when it comes to oversight over daycares in this state, that runs through the Department of Human Services. Lakeview did say they were fully compliant with DHS. I looked into this process and pulled some of the files for this daycare from DHS's website. When we first heard claims made against Lakeview Early Learning Academy, we looked through their compliance reports on the State Department of Human Services website. Now, any parent can look over an accredited daycare's reports and grades with OKDHS on this website, dhs.ok.gov/providers. The former employee you just heard from, Jessica Kimsey, and another parent, Sarah White, say they had filed reports with DHS involving the way kids are being treated at the daycare.
Because I wish I would have done more. I didn't know what to do. I tried. I reached out to DHS. I reached out to our assistance program. Nothing happened, though. On DHS's website, I saw Lakeview received visits by caseworkers for both periodic routine and complaint reasons. Nothing out of the ordinary for a daycare. The check-ins date back to 2022 and look into all areas of compliance that DHS gives as guidelines to their accredited daycares. Lakeview has never missed more than one area of compliance according to DHS. Despite this, 2 complaints were substantiated, one in 2023 and another last November. The most recent, from 2 months ago, says the complaint was made that a, quote, teacher hit child on head, causing child to fall and caused injury to child, end quote. DHS substantiated the claim and put in place a plan to correct, which involved firing that employee and training employees on discipline actions. Lakeview has stated they always work with DHS, but the ex-employee says that is not true.
Anytime I questioned a DHS rule, since I knew rules from working at other daycares, they would say, oh, well, it's different in Osage County. Osage County has different rules, so we do it like this.
Now, despite these claims, Lakeview is still graded as a 5-star academy by DHS. That means they can get the most money per child in their care from the state agency. However, problems around accrediting daycares is something new leadership at DHS has started to work on. There is efforts on the ground to make accreditation a requirement for all daycares in Oklahoma and to change the way in which they are graded. That will be decided at a later date by the state legislature coming this spring. Covering news that matters, Devyn, Lyon, Fox 23 News.
We have done another investigation on the way DHS grades daycares here in Oklahoma. There will be a link to that in this story on FOX23.com. This week we saw a listing. The Lakeview Learning Academy daycare is listed for sale by the owners.